Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Day Spring Church. We're glad to have everyone here today. Before we get formally started up here today, let me just go over a couple of parameters for here today. My name is TJ Halls. I'm the owner and executive editor for I-45 Now. I'll be the moderator of this forum tonight. And it's important to note that it's a forum. The candidates who are here tonight have not seen the questions I'll be asking this evening. They know the general topics that will be coming up. But these are questions that were submitted by folks in the community over the last several weeks that are here. Now, not all of them that we have on our list here will be asked tonight. However, each of the candidates has agreed to take these in written form and submit them back to the Chamber of Commerce, and they'll be available there for you to read. So you'll be able to read the question and hear the answer. The format that we use for this forum is important. It is not a debate. That means we're not going, here's your 60 seconds and here's your 30-second rebuttal. The 7 candidates, that wouldn't be fair to anybody here tonight. The idea is to give you a perspective of what the candidates feel, think, and will respond on the issue. So the idea is we'll ask the question, we'll rotate who gets to answer the question first, but everyone will get a chance to answer the same question. And we're not going to cut them off after 60 seconds. So we have asked the candidates to spend about 90 seconds to 2 minutes tops on each of their responses. Now, if they go a little over, there is no hard count on that. We're not going to cut them off at that time. I will say wrap it up so we can keep it moving. The idea is that we're going to get this done in about 90 minutes or so. So we hope to be out of here by 7:30. Plenty of time for you to make it on back to your house this evening for Monday Night Football to catch the kickoff, or not the kickoff, but at least catch the second half of that tonight. So we appreciate everyone being here tonight. This question gets asked a lot when we do these forums. We are not taking questions from the audience. Now, as I said, we ask for questions during the week. That doesn't mean that at the end of the night, the candidates are going to be here. If you have a question for one of the candidates you didn't hear answered tonight, or you think wasn't asked, or you needed more clarification of it, feel free to walk up to them and ask them in here tonight. That's totally fine. That's why part of this process is. Also, the questions I have here are not only the only questions I'll be asking. There may be an answer from a candidate that needs clarification, a follow-up, or a response from someone else here. The idea is, again, to have more of an interview style and exchange here tonight. So that would be the format that we follow here this evening. We'll make sure the camera's rolling. We are not live streaming this, by the way, I should point out here tonight. We're having troubles with the signal. I would rather have a clean feed. So sometime late tonight, first thing in the morning, the full forum will be online on I-45 Now and available. Obviously, the chamber will also get that from us as well to watch. And the most important thing is folks will be able to watch it and get the content out of it that they wish than worrying about the technology of the live stream. Double checking, Paul, we up and running already? Up there, wave your phone at me. I feel like I'm at an Aerosmith concert here with the lights in my eyes here. Gotcha, thank you, sir. I appreciate it here tonight. So again, welcome to Day Spring Church, the Santa Fe, Texas Chamber of Commerce's forum for the candidates for Santa Fe Independent School District candidates for the Board of Trustees. We have 7 of our 8 candidates here tonight. Should point out that Clay Hertenberger could not be here tonight. He had a conflict, but did inform us that he couldn't be here. We knew that ahead of time. This was the best night to get everyone together, and he also has agreed to answer the questions that will be there tonight. To be fair, too, I should point out as well, Rusty Norman, who is running for re-election, is unopposed. While he will not be part of the forum here tonight, he, like other candidates, will have a chance at the end to come up and give his, what's called an elevator speech in the political world, but his pitch to you either way. So we wanted to be able to include all the candidates in the UK. So let's get things going here today, and we're going to start off with the first question, all candidates. And there is a lot of talk on this subject, obviously, since the school ratings came out. And despite what information we've had back from the school district and others, one way or another, negative and positive, there is no doubt that there's need to have room for improvement. I'll start with you, Ms. Skufca. Talk about school performance, and as a board member, what can you do? This is a two-part question. what can you do, or what will you do, if re-elected in your case, to one, set policies for success, and two, hold the administration accountable to make the improvements that are needed? And go ahead.
Thank you. Well, I can honestly say that that process has already begun. And there are many plans that have been put in place, and some were even put in place last year. And there have been outside audits to take a look at our particularly reading and math curriculum to see where are we missing the boat. But one thing that's really important for everybody to understand is that this new rating system is very complex, hard to understand, and doesn't make a lot of sense. But what you need to know is that when it comes to actual taking the test, getting the score, our students are meeting the standard and they're really doing very well. Our problem is with our subgroups, like special ed, economically disadvantaged, and English as a second language group. These groups are going to really be looked at, supported, and helped so that they can make the progress they need to make. Our overall, if you ever see the reports, there are so many subcategories and each grade level and each subject, and they all say something different, and you have to be able to put all of that together to understand what this rating is about. But I will say this, going forward, the board has charged the superintendent with with being much more successful than it appears that we have been in the past. And that has gone all the way down to the campuses, to the principals, to the teachers, and I can tell you that they are all on board and they're working very hard to accomplish, because everyone is embarrassed with what the scores were. But another very important thing to know is that this year, 2018, the actual rating for Santa Fe ISD is not rated. The papers publish what the scores might would have been.
Oh, go ahead and finish up your presentation. I'm just going to say, if you could wrap it up.
Well, it was just kind of a what if the scores were counted, this is what it looks like it would be. And we have looked at that, we understand it, and we're working toward a huge improvement that you will see next year.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Longcoy, on that same question, after hearing the response from the incumbent, what's your response?
I want to thank Ms. Skufca for giving us that information that most of us do not even know. I have had some thoughts on the subject. I've done some research, and we have declined over years. It wasn't just this year. We met standard, but we were lower scores than other schools. And yes, I see that the rating this year for the high school was the 59. Your student achievement is 72. If it was the old report, that might have also been met standard. But the academic growth and what have you, it's been going down for years. The only way that I know to improve it is either get a superintendent that is more successful and has the experience that can help our school. And if we don't do that, then I would have to say the board, I would like to see the board, as she said, be more enforceable of things picking up, maybe get more experienced teachers. We have a lot of fine teachers at that school. I've worked with some of them, especially in the elementary education area. But there are a lot of teachers that are failing us, and that's just the truth. So we need to get better teachers.
Thank you, ma'am. Jody, your response.
So I agree with Tina. When we look at the last 5 years as an example, a lot of us were surprised, right, by the 2018 ratings. But if we look at the last 5 years, it really should not be a surprise. So I think we, as school board, right, take a look at the numbers, take a look at what our performance goals are, and where we are. If we look at from 2013 to 2017, we did perform in a net expectation, which is a net expectation. When you compare us to our region, we actually ranked pretty low in the region of 49, if you will. When you look at our region averages versus our state averages, again, just some of the research we've been doing, we're underperforming our region and our state. A lot of that is around transparency, and I was refreshed to see Ms. Ross's video this morning, so thank you for that. As we think about, as a community, parent involvement is paramount, right? We get that. One of the ways that we can improve that is through transparency as a district. I see there's another thing that is starting today. I can't remember the name of it. But I'm excited about that, where parents can get more involved. But transparency is key. And so that's where I would look at setting policies for success would be around transparency for the district. Secondly, holding administrators accountable. I think we set goals and we expect that they meet them. Period.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Jessica, same question for you.
Hi everybody, I'm excited to see everybody here tonight. I actually ran 2 years ago because of our educational performance. So it didn't really have anything to do with the accountability ratings, but more the overall performance. So for example, back in 2005, we were actually performing above state average. So when all of the parents are kind of my age, went to school in 2005, went to school in the 90s, and they say, this isn't the school that we went to. And that supports that statement. So in 2013, 2014, 2015, we were 2 to 5% below state average in reading and math. And that's why I ran. I thought, man, this is a great town. We show up for our kids in all of our activities. We can do better than 2 to 4% below state average. So since that election, we've gone down to 11% below reading, below state average in reading, and 7% below state average in math. That was 2017. And then 2018, 13% below state average in reading, and 18% below state average in math. That is, approaches or meets standard or above at the high school level. So that doesn't have anything to do with any small demographic groups or anything. This is how many kids meet the standard of the state or above. So that's 63% of our kids in math versus 81% of the state. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to be honest with ourselves. We have a problem, but we can fix it. So we can fix it whenever we're honest with ourselves and the community, because it's going to take all of us to fix it. So we're all going to have to work together. We're all going to have to hold each other accountable for sending our kids to school every day, for holding the administrators accountable. So, and I believe, I've got 3 kids in this district. So I have a lot of experience with their teachers, and I've always been happy with their teachers. Their teachers are doing what they can, and we just have to, they just have to have better leadership and guidance. So, and that's what the board's job is to do, is to set policy and procedure and set the goals for the superintendent. So that's where we start.
All right, thank you. Ms. Rothermel, your take on how the performances came back and what's being done?
Well, no one has it really great, especially us. I know for a fact that our administration and our teachers and our principals are all on the same page now. I think that you'll see a great improvement of what we've had in the past. At least we understand. I've been in several meetings in the last couple of weeks on understanding how to grade our system. It's a very confusing grading system, but I think we all got it all together now. And I can assure you, if we follow our plans, our grading system will increase. Yes, we need to hold our administration accountable for all of everything as far as academic goes. But y'all hang in there. It's going to take everybody in the community to help. we need to encourage our students to do a good job on taking tests. We need to encourage them to just be recognized, you know, and just study hard. So we got to have parents that's involved with our kids. So that's about all I have to say on such a great person.
All right, thank you, John. James?
Good evening. I think we've kind of threw enough numbers out there, and we've kind of come to the determination that we're weak in several areas. Special education was obviously one of the fields that we fell far behind, and I obviously have an interest in that since my son has Downs. But that's just one of the areas, and we've already determined that we haven't been satisfactory. Things such as discipline and distractions in our classrooms have to be cleaned up. Our classrooms, some of them are a circus at times, and it has to stop. I'm not saying they're all that way, but a lot of them are. A lot of times, all it takes is for a coach to come in there and tell a few players, hey, straighten up, you're not playing tonight. Sometimes it takes a little more than that. But all those kids deserve an environment to learn in. Attendance is something else that's very important, not only to education, but also to the funding of the school that we have to get taken care of. I mean, we need to get our kids in school as much as possible, and we need to find ways.
All right, and I know they can be side issues to that, but this is specific to academic performance of what policies you support and how to hold the administration accountable. To that. That's what the question is related to. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I know these are talking points that you have there, but we'll get to those subject matters, by the way.
I think holding the administration accountable on discipline and distractions is pretty important, and providing an environment that's conducive to learning. I feel that's pretty important as an administration to do that. Sorry, I lost my way.
You're
Also, as far as education goes, we seem to be stuck in the middle right now between technology, getting away from textbooks, and sticking with the textbook. They're using online textbooks, but a lot of the teachers aren't teaching from that book. So when the students come home at night, the parents want to help. Well, we don't know where to look because they're not teaching from that book. So we either need to make a shift completely and use technology to our advantage, or we need to go back to the old way. But we can't just sit in the middle and not totally go to technology. Another thing that I like to talk about is we need to get the most out of our days. In our administration, I know late start days are extremely important to our teachers and staff, because those are the days that they sit down, and that's the only time that those teachers get together and do group planning. And I understand that's important to them, but it also takes away from the entire day. I'm not saying we should do away with them, but it's something I would like the administration to look at.
Gotcha. Thank you for your time, and appreciate you clarifying those answers. As a follow-up to that, Ms. Rothermel, let me ask you here. You said something that was interesting. You said that you sat down this week to understand better how the state rating system goes. Was this the first time that had been explained to the board? And to what Ms. Skufca said, and for the rest of the candidates, that you may not have been involved in the discussions, but what type of reporting are you going to expect as part of this? But this has been coming down the pike since the legislature changed the law. This is not new. Why does it seem that it's just now coming to the boards? And I may be misreading what you had said, but just how active have y'all been up until this point?
We've been very active on it, sir. What it is, every year it seems like about the time we got to figure it out that we put new programs in, they changed the deal. This is no different this year with the A through F grading, which there was a lot of deals that affects the grading rating on everything. We were just trying to understand, get clarification on what we needed to do to improve whatever we had to do to get our grade system up. thank goodness that the rating this year is not rated. We're not going to be scored on that. But you also got to remember that we had 25 days this year in our school year. We did not have a chance to give our students any kind of form of education for due to the floods and other incidents that's happened throughout our district this year. But no, we went to clarify some of the new ratings as far as how to grade the system through the A through F.
Okay. And Ms. Skufca, let me ask you, because you had said that, you know, that some steps were already, can you give some specifics to those of what measures, and not all of them, but what ones you think would be most interesting to voters in?
All right, well, just briefly, last school year, there was an outside audit done looking at our reading curriculum, and there were some inconsistencies that were found and reported, and based on that feedback, new plans, new systems have been put in place and are ongoing and up and ready and going, not still in the planning stage. So the reading program is much more, let me say it's a literacy program, and it's very much in depth, and it covers all areas, not just reading per se. So it's reading, writing, speaking, listening, and it goes across the contents, and it's a very good plan, and it's already in place. This school year, there will be an outside audit done on all of the math curriculum, also looking for inconsistencies to see where we can and need to make improvements for math. And I would just like to say that even though we are in Galveston County with other Galveston County schools, like it or not, believe it or not, but it's like comparing apples and oranges. Because of the makeup of the school district, everybody knows percentages. And if you have a group of people and there are only 20 of them, and 1 or 2 people don't pass the test, that's a large percentage that didn't pass. But in the school right down the road from you that has 500 of that ethnicity or that disability or ESL students, you can have 50 not pass the test, and their percentage might still be lower than what yours was. So this rating system is just really weird. And all schools, there's a Galveston County consortium of school districts of which we are a member, and all of them are fighting to have this system taken away because it's A, not fair, B, not correct, and C, crazy.
Jessica, let me ask you as a follow-up to that. We heard the terms of weird, crazy on the school rating systems. That's actually been a terminology we hear statewide every single time a plan is put forward. Do you buy that? And to the question I asked early on with that, you know, what specific measures do you think need to be put in place right now?
To a point, I do buy it. As far as our A through F rating, it does put a lot of weight on these particular groups, and if you don't have a large group, then you don't have, each person taking the test is weighted more. However, like I stated before, the kids that are meeting standard, that are meeting state average, are less. So it doesn't matter what group they are. We're talking about the whole entire group are not doing as well in high school, which got the least rating. So, and we need to, like I said, we need to confront reality on that. So it's been declining since 2013. This is not a new problem. Like I said, that's why I ran in 2016, because we were under state average. We take all the accountability ratings out of the game. We had less students meeting state average in reading and math than other high schools did. So, and part of the way that we can start attacking that problem, aside from all the different programs that we've heard so far, we just need to teach every single student, every single day. The very first time that I got involved in the district was when my 10th grader was in 6th grade, and his pre-AP math experience was outside of my expectations. So I went and had a meeting with his teacher, and I said, hey, this isn't going like I thought it was going to go. And she said, well, I have 36 kids in my pre-AP math class, in his class, and 8 of them are struggling to pass. So all of my time and effort are going to those 8. And I said, but we have 28 other students that need your time and effort. And she said, I know, but I'm told I need to focus on these kids that are struggling to pass. And I think that's a really good illustration of the district as a whole. We focus on the few, and all the ones that maybe don't need help passing aren't challenged every single day. And that shows up in our accountability ratings, and it shows up in our state average.
Thank you, ma'am. Tina, how about that? Of policies that need to be put in place, and the fact that is the system crazy, weird, unfair? I think, as I said, thanks for the terminology. I think it's a little more blunt than we hear a lot of times.
Well, I couldn't agree more with Jessica. Also with that, the 8 that are struggling, they must have scored enough to be in the AP class. With that said, there's still the 8 that are lesser.
Bring the mic just a little closer to you.
Why aren't we restructuring the classrooms, the ones that are really successful, all in one class? I just don't know if it's funds, if they don't have enough teachers, but it seems like some sort of restructuring should be done. That's my thought.
Subsets, obviously this is something we hear a lot. James, you mentioned it. You have a child who's in special needs, and that's one of the subsets. But the law is the law. You've got to educate them. With that in mind too, and answering any of the questions everyone asked about what policies need to be in place, how would you approach it policy-wise for the administration then to take steps to work on those areas that are not up to snuff?
Well, I think we're kind of talking about the same thing. And one of the things that I'm having trouble with and I'm learning about recently is the way we do inclusion in our district. And the goal is to put the higher level students mixed in with the lower level students. Obviously the goal would be to bring the lower level students up to achieving a higher level, which that's great, but what's happening is a lot of the higher achieving students in these classrooms are not being pushed. They're not being pushed to their full potential, and they spend a lot of their time, because I know firsthand this is happening, they spend a lot of time helping other students, which is great, and that's something that they should be taught to do, is help other people. But at the same time, it's great that we bring the bottom up, but we can't let the top fall at the same time. That doesn't achieve anything. I would like to see a formal GT program of some type come back, so the extremely high achievers are pushed to their maximum potential. And at the same time, we can't forget about the ones that are struggling either. So it's a difficult situation, but the current program, I need more information. Obviously I don't have every answer, and I'm not there every day. But I would like to look into it a lot.
Jody, how about it? The state rating systems, it struggles, and what policies to make changes to make the improvements in those areas. James brings up a point of the students not being challenged on the higher levels, and other students not, being helped to come up, but it's not getting everyone up at that time, possibly. I mean, we're not waiting on what Ms. Skufca, Ms. Rothermel point out what's being implemented. But your take on that right now?
Yeah, so I think we're not the only district out there struggling with it, right? So I think that as district leadership, I know that we're reaching out to folks that are doing well. Surely we're not the only ones trying to figure this out. We weren't the only ones that changed to this new accountability system in 2018. There were 48 of us. What we have to ask ourselves when we look at numbers, I happen to be a numbers guy, so you can ask me numbers all day long, is why were we second from the bottom in 3 of the areas? We can't be the only ones that are trying to figure this out, or that we're surprised by that. So as far as, gifted and talented and taking that, looking at what it was, right? Dr. Wall sent out the information related to the district's performance and where are we struggling and where are our performance improvement things. I'll get it out. Where are those and what are we trying to work on? So absolutely, those should be the areas we're working on. And then how can we, as involved as we have been as a community, how can we be involved in that?
Tina, I'll give you this question first up, but it's come up already in a couple, at least in James's comments here, but discipline has been a hot topic, not only in Santa Fe ISD, but districts across the area. And it's a proven fact, obviously, that you can't get education if the classes are being disrupted. And it has been, since the May 18th truth, that it has become a top of the mind issue more so in the past. What issues do you see how Santa Fe ISD is handling disciplinary issues? What policies do you support to make a change or a turn or improve things?
Well, I have seen some things in the media, social media, where Santa Fe is making some improvements in that stride, and I'm very glad about that. Dress code has to be followed. Parents need to be called if their kids are acting unruly and you don't have a place for them to go, to sit in the office for 15 minutes and then go back to class, you're not supporting your teachers. They need to follow what is out there, what we put out there. And if they're not, then the parents and the student, have to read what they say. It's that simple for me. And I do believe we need a lot more parent support. I believe a lot of parents try to do their jobs, but going to work, working all day, they come home tired, it's just not there. But if the school is calling them and forcing them to do something with their child, I guarantee you, if you called me, I'd be up there in New York minute and my kid would be going home, we'd have it all. But they need to follow the rules.
How do you hold the folks in charge of holding those folks accountable? How do you hold those accountable?
By making those calls to those parents. It's that simple.
Gotcha. Ms. Skufca, how about discipline in the school district? As from a board member's perspective, what policies do you want to see put in place, or the ones that are in place that are enforced to improve disciplinary standards within the school district? Yes.
Well, this much I know. I know that our student code of conduct comes directly from the state model. And we can add things to that, but there are certain things that have to be there and have to be there in a particular way. It is, I have been an administrator both at the elementary and the high school level. I'll tell you, it's a lot easier at the elementary level. At the high school, when a teacher does what they're supposed to do, oftentimes, and sends a student to the office because they're out of dress code, by the time they make it to the office, believe it or not, they have changed and they're perfectly in dress code, and the assistant principal is looking at them like, and thinking, what's wrong with the teacher? And so you send them back, but they stop off again at the restroom, and they're back in the same clothes they were in that classroom. And that happens a lot, and it's the students who do that. That makes the teachers very frustrated. It makes the APs who handle the discipline very frustrated, and the students feel like they have gotten one over on you. And that happens a lot. So that's an issue that is very difficult, but you just have to support, in my mind, at the high school level, the teachers and the paraprofessionals really have to support one another. And you can't just say, I give up, and not call those kids out when they're out of dress code. It's a very touchy situation, but I think that if more teachers stood together and supported one another, it would get better.
I'm going to follow up on that here in a second. Jody, about discipline overall within the school district, what policies need to be put in place?
So I got to work with folks like Rosie and Jessica and Melanie and Tony on the policy, safety, and security committee that came out of that. What we found is that we actually have a really good student code of conduct, if followed, right? And so one of the commitments that we got from administrators, we didn't come back with a million changes that we wanted to make to it, quite honestly. What we came back with is how do we hold teachers, administrators who hold students accountable to do so. And I've seen already that we're doing that. So there's been a huge change in this school year related to holding students accountable to do what they're supposed to be doing.
James, you had brought that up in your first answer about discipline. Give a chance to what policies do you want to see in place or enforcement, as we're hearing here, that would improve things?
Well, as much as I hate to agree with my opposition here, I serve on the Safety and Security Committee with Jody. I'm on the Hardening Subcommittee. He is on the Policy and Procedure Committee. And they did review those documents and present them to us. And he's right. I'd rather not as thoroughly as he has yet. But he is correct. The policies are there. I mean, we just got to follow. I mean, there's what, 300? You won't tell me what 300 and some pages. Yeah, it's almost 400 pages.
By the way, he did tell them.
But they're there. The policies are there. We need to enforce them. We need to stop playing games. I mean, if you're out of dress code, you're out of dress code. And if the game is going on between the office and the classroom, and that game is going on, we just put in another 44 cameras. I mean, we can find out what's going on. That needs to stop. The game playing is over with. I disagree with them. I mean, we need to enforce the rules we have. We don't need new rules.
Jessica, disciplinary here.
So just like James and Jody mentioned, we've been on the safety committee together. So as we reviewed the policies, I thought, I want my kids to go to this school. This school where all of these policies and procedures are enforced every day. Another interesting tidbit about the safety committee is when we did community surveys, that's what most of the community members and parents got. Just enforce the policies that you have, and then we'll go from there and be happy. So, and the biggest policy as far as classroom management goes, supporting our teachers when they try to enforce rules. So, my little kids are sitting over here and I have to pray that they get teachers that can enforce the rules just for the whole class so they can learn. So we have some major class disruptions. And of course, what does that do? It hurts our accountability ratings. If we challenged every student every day, maybe some of them wouldn't get bored and act out. So it kind of all ties together. But we really need to support these teachers. As a board member, I'm supporting the administrators. When these rules are enforced, don't come to me complaining when your kid broke a rule, because I'm going to support them 100%. We have got to put that out there. So it also goes with our safety culture. Every rule we don't follow just declines in our safety culture. So I'm a huge advocate for discipline. Ask my kids. And like I said, that's one of my really big energies that I'll put behind it, is making sure that when our teachers are relying on our administrators to back them up, that's going to be my expectation.
Thank you. John?
If you break the rules, you pay the price. We have ISS, DAP, we have CAPS, and we also have JJ. So we got a place to put any crime or any rule breaking, and I'm all in favor of using every one of them if need be. We need to give them a chance to straighten up. If they don't do that, let's move to the next step. And if they don't do that, we move to the next step. But anyway, they got to understand that we have policies that they got to follow. And as long as they follow them, everything's fine. As soon as they break them, they have to pay the price.
And it goes into, I find it interesting, Sheryl, you mentioned this, and James referenced it too based on your answer. The kids playing games and changing them. If that's a known entity and that's happening, why isn't it the policy then support the teacher regardless and deal with the ramifications after that? Has the board looked at that type of policy? And I'm asked, obviously, if you're not an incumbent, I'll give you a chance of elaborating more on that policy.
Well, the teachers are supported, but in terms of, that was just one really very small example of what happens with trying to enforce the dress code. That's really not one of the more important, well, let me change that phrase.
I'm based on your answer. I mean, I should point that out.
But I don't mean to say it's not important, because obviously there are many people now who really feel that dress code is extremely important. So I don't want to sound like I'm dismissing the importance of proper dress code. I don't mean that at all. But there are other things involving discipline, for example, bullying and that type of behavior that is, in my mind, more serious than some of the dress code infractions. And so teachers really are supported. When I was there, the teachers were always supported. Now, I've been out for several years, and so I'm not there anymore, but it has not come to my attention that teachers are feeling that they're not supported with discipline issues. I'm not going to say that every teacher thinks they're totally supported, but nothing has come to my attention as a board member where I'm hearing that teachers feel like they're not supported by administration.
And let me expand on that a little bit for the rest of y'all here and have a real discussion on this, because discipline has been a major talk, particularly since May 18th. It is the lack of a better term, the white elephant in the room. Whether it's dress code, discipline in the classrooms that are there. And I should note, a lot of the questions that we got in here are from teachers. And the general indication is they feel their voices are not being heard. Now, it's not a 100%, there's no doubt about it. Whether it's a gamesmanship like you talked about, or a parent comes to complain. So let me just ask here, because then there's also brings in the question of zero tolerance. We've heard that mainly over the years when it comes to drug enforcement. Zero tolerance. An aspirin, we see news reports, an aspirin gets a kid kicked out of school. So and I'll come back to you, Sheryl, in just a little bit, but I'm going to go down here, and I don't think you've had a chance to answer a question first. Yeah, Jessica, so I'll give you a chance to do that. But how do you balance because a lot of time can be spent focusing discipline, zero tolerance, and cracking down. How do you balance keeping the operation going to the day and taking on a harder line on discipline problems? And how, as a board member, do you get policies in place to make sure the administration, the teachers, and everyone has that in place?
Eventually, once the kids know we're going to enforce rules, they have boundaries, and we stop pushing them, and we can focus on educating our kids. So if we're spending a lot of time enforcing dress code, then we can consider going to a standard dress. I don't mind that. The community didn't like that, but if we're spending all of our time and our resources talking about dress code, then standard dress is the option. So we can get back to where we're focusing on teaching our kids. So the main discipline problems that are concerned to me are the ones that are disrupting class every single day. The ones where you have one student every single day disrupt class in the learning where those other 25 students, at the end of the year, their education has been less because they've gotten less time. And I hear stories every single day. I have kids of my own, and I have my own examples. So, like I said, we don't have to have a zero tolerance policy on everything, but some of the things we can have a zero tolerance policy on. So, and like I said, it's all about supporting that teacher when they need someone to come help them so they can teach their 25 other students. We need to support them as a district.
We're going to swap out your mic here, if you don't mind. Sorry about that, folks. John, may I ask you, first off, policies to make sure discipline, dress code has been mentioned a lot here. Before we go anywhere, quick show of hands, because Jessica brought it up. Raise your hand if you support a standard dress code across the district. Well, the crowd got it, but okay. So I meant for the candidates here. But okay. Sorry about that, folks. I was going to say we have a lot of hands out here. Okay, we're glad. Okay, let's just hold them up if you do. Just keep them up above your head here so we can see. Well, you brought it up, so we have to put you in the 4 category. How about on this end over here?
I'd like to discuss.
Okay, well, and I think that's good. We will discuss that here in a little bit. Okay, John, let me go ahead and give you a chance to talk about discipline measures within the school district. How to make that balance of policies that can be enforced, will be enforced, and hold accountability.
Well, we have policies out that are very good policies. The problem is we're not enforcing them like we should. Our students are very smart. If they want to take the day off, they won't dress right, they go up to the office and there's either put them in a deal for the parents to come get them, or and they send them home. The idea of it is if they follow on something like that, they need to put a policy out that we have, instead of sending them home, calling their parents, let them sit in a room all day long with doing homework and other things where they don't have the opportunity to do what they want to do. They do what we want them to do. But I tell you what, our children are smart. They figure things out real quick. If they want to go somewhere, they can get that way. The other thing is our policies are very, very good as far as dress codes. We can spend all day long enforcing dress codes and not paying any attention to getting our kids educated or whatever. We have to hit a happy medium here. Make sure that they are dressed, and if they're not dressed right, let's put them in the classroom and let them do homework and stuff like that. Don't send them home.
To what Tina had said earlier, though, would you support a more aggressive call to the parents on the dress code if it's
Yes. When I was a kid growing up, if a teacher called my home or the principal called my home, I can guarantee you my backside would be sore by that afternoon. And I wouldn't do that anymore. So I think we need to get our parents involved in these things here. We need to call them, be more aggressive, and let them understand that they got a problem too, just like we do.
Good. Jody?
Yeah, so I actually agree with Jessica on the dress code thing. I didn't raise my hand because right now, if you asked me, do I support a standard dress code, the answer would be no. But if I'm getting information on the board that our teachers are spending X percentage of time or any percentage of time at all, and this is what we're dealing with on a daily basis, and it's taking away from our children's education, then 1,000% yes. I would support removing that distraction.
Tina?
I'm gonna go right back to the school puts in policy and procedures. Everybody needs to follow it. And again, call those parents. They're gonna get tired of coming up there. And maybe they'll do something at home that will change that. It still goes back to parenting.
James, you said you wanted to discuss this topic a little bit more. Here's your chance.
Yeah, and John's right. I mean, it's not a punishment if you enjoy it. I mean, if I knew that I could wear the wrong thing to school and get to go home for the rest of the day, of course I'm going to wear the wrong thing to school and go home for the rest of the day. I agree with John. I mean, there needs to be a punishment. You need to go sit in ISS or whatever the appropriate punishment is for that day, and go from there. the parents need to be involved. I know parents are busy. I know most of us, we're both working. We're doing everything we can. But at the same time, we still have to be involved in our kids' lives. And it's our job as school officials and school administrators to let those parents know when there's an issue. I'll speak to an issue that happened to me. And this has been a while, but I got a call that my son was acting up several years ago. It's been a while because it's been corrected. But on the third day, and the third bad day, I get a call. And my first question is, why have you waited 3 days to call me? You should have called me on day 1, and then there wouldn't have been a day 2 or day 3. And I don't know if that's the policy that, across the board, or I hope it's not someone giving my child leniency, because we've always tried to raise our special needs child like anyone else. But that call needs to be made on day 1, and the parents need to be involved immediately, so the parents can solve the problem. Because it's actually, more their responsibility to solve the problem than it is the schools.
Thanks. Show of hand among the candidates. Here. Y'all feel free. I like that. I think that input is actually not bad. And this is just a quick one. We have seen this in some school districts in the last year or so, last couple of years, since it's that the return of corporal punishment, if they want to call it. And I ask this because, John, you brought this up. When you got home, if you messed up, you got a pretty good butt whooping. And not everyone is for that, but would, show of hands, who would support that being an option within the school district? Look out. Go ahead, crowd, if you want to do it too. Okay. So that's one of the topics that are there. Bullying's been mentioned, and Jody, I'll start with you on this one. It is a tough subject to tackle from a school district perspective, because so much of it happens outside the building, but carries over into the campus in some way or another. We have seen laws passed, and it is not necessarily curbed it. We've heard policies get passed that are out there. What really needs to be done and I think it's important, as a board member, the policies that you can set to help combat this issue, whether it's another outreach program as well or anything like that?
So I think it starts with tracking. And I know that Dr. Schumann, Dr. Wall, met with the Safety and Security Committee, and one of the things that we talked about was the state definition of bullying, because it's reported if it meets the state standard, right? But if it doesn't meet the state standard, as a district, we weren't tracking that. And I know that we are now. Or I believe that is the plan, at least, that we are tracking that now so that we can see trends, and when that's happening, is it the same kid that it happened to in 2nd grade and then 3rd grade and then 4th grade, and is this child, as an example, going to continue on? So as a board member, my role would be to depend on folks like Dr. Schumann, who've got expertise in this, to ensure that what we're doing is working, and if it's not working, then let's explore what is working in other districts.
And I think, just to clarify this so everyone understands, there is a state definition for bullying. It is actually very narrow out there. And I attended a seminar not too long back. The difference between what bullying by generations is also a different definition. And there is emotional well-being and picking on and everything else. And you should notice if you go by that, but a lot of school districts have adopted policies that expand that within the realm to, while they may not have to do the state reporting, go there. James, on the issue of bullying, what policies and what implementations would you like to see within Santa Fe ISD?
Well, and you just spoke about some of it. I mean, you're right, the state definition is difficult. But there's nothing that says that we have to, if we don't meet the state definition of bullying, we can't do anything. We can have policies on, basically, I mean, I hate to be blunt, but stop being a jerk. I mean, kids need to act right, Teachers know when kids are being disrespectful to others. They know when they're being disrespectful to their peers, and it needs to stop. Now, of course, we don't want to, incarcerate some kid because, kids are being kids, but at the same time, there needs to be a level of progression to make them understand we need to knock this off. We need to be looking out for each other, especially now. Right now more than ever, this community needs to come together. And I don't know if this is off the topic or not, but a lot of the things that we're doing as adults, our kids are seeing. And that's going to start to take over. And we don't want to go down that road. We need to all learn to work together.
Tina?
This one hits close to home. I had a friend that was an officer that lost his child last year because of bullying. And what I don't understand is why haven't we had any reports over the years? We haven't had any since 2009. Why haven't we been tracking it all along? That's the part I guess I don't understand. I'd like to see us start tracking it. It is a good idea. And if the same kid is getting called in all the time with incidences, it might be the kid. And there again, you bring in the parents. If it takes some sort of mediation, if we need a special counselor, if we need to send them to alternative school, they need to know there's repercussions for what they're doing. And you do some good repercussions, word gets around, kids will stop. I'm afraid that ours might be so out of control it will take some time. That's what concerns me most. And that's my thoughts.
Thank you, ma'am. Cheryl? No,
Well-
Cheryl.
Oh, sure, I'm sorry. Getting ready to take it.
Well,
I've never confused you two before, so go ahead, Cheryl.
I would like to point out that October happens to be National Bullying Prevention Month, and I can tell you some of the things that are in place for the month of October and ongoing in terms of anti-bullying at Santa Fe. Our district policy, FFI, in Santa Fe ISD prohibits bullying, requires a timely investigation and notification, and prohibits retaliation against those who report bullying. The district takes bullying of any kind very seriously, and information about reporting bullying includes the means of reporting, anonymous reporting, tribal tips for anonymous reporting, and social media monitoring. In the investigation process, there's a clear process in place when bullying is reported, and the next steps, if you feel that your child or someone you know is being bullied, and you're not satisfied with the campus level decision, Dr. Jackie Shubin is the next level of contact. But at the high school, new this year, is Safe School Ambassadors, SSA. It's an international program that enables schools to develop a cadre of motivated, trained, and supported student opinion leaders who de-escalate conflict and reduce exclusion, cruel humor, bullying, and other forms of mistreatment on their campuses. This program identifies and selects student leaders from diverse groups across the campus, and we have identified approximately, I think it's 40 students who are leaders and 8 teachers who have already attended a 2-day training in which students develop essential skills in observing, and it goes on, and there's a lot more to it, and they have lessons throughout the year. At the junior high, counselors will lead a Stomp Out Bullying
Go ahead and wrap up.
campaign. And there's something at every campus that is planned for this, and bullying is at the top of the list at being looked at and monitored.
John? No, you're sure. I'm sure this time.
Bullying is serious. It's increased in the last 5 years. It's unbelievable. 1 out of every 5 children is being bullied. We need to take that very seriously. Anytime, for any reason whatsoever, any kind of reporting on bullying need to be followed up to the fullest extent. Make sure that whether it's state required or not, that if a kid's being bullied, they need to be taken care of. Not only are they being bullied in school, they're being bullied on the internet, the social media, and everything. The bad thing about the situation is, I don't know if y'all have been to some of our board meetings here lately, but if you want to see a form of bullying, just watch some of the films that we had on that. So, I mean, we got to make sure that our children don't see us being the aggressor, and it's going to take 13 years to resolve this problem here. If we start right now in the elementary schools, teaching all of our children to love one another, respect one another, and treat everybody with respect, it will take 13 years to get us turned around. But in the meantime, we have to take bullying very seriously. And we need to get the state to change some of their policies on that too. A bully can stay in the classroom, the person that's being bullied will have to move if that's what they want. But we ought to be able to move a bully out of the classrooms, put them in the ISS or any other program that we have, so our kids will be safe and feel comfortable to be able to get an education that they well deserve.
Jessica.
So every child deserves to be able to go to school and feel safe. It breaks my heart every time I hear a story about a child that cries every morning before they go to school. I know parents that have taken their kids out of school completely and homeschooled them due to bullying. So there's a couple of points that I want to talk about when it comes to bullying. One of them is an anonymous reporting app, where we start using that app to report any type of bullying, whether it be peer-to-peer or even staff-to-peer or staff-to-student. And we hold the district accountable to make sure that all of those are investigated and taken seriously. And this is a big one where it comes to community involvement and being involved with your child. Have dinner with them every night and talk to them about their day. So, are they being bullied? Are their friends being bullied? Get that information out of them. And if we as adults need to bring it to the district, that's a great tool and a great option. Another option is to volunteer for the school district. So we have Parents on Patrol organization, and there's very little participation right now. But for example, our school buses, 80% of our students ride school buses. And the school bus drivers are the ones that are responsible for keeping our kids safe on the road, but making sure everybody in the back isn't being bullied. And one parent on that bus can make a huge difference. So, I mean, we're talking 2 hours a week. You can make a huge difference when it comes to bullying and enforcing the code of conduct. So this is one of those where we all have to work together to make sure that we solve this issue and make it a lot better.
As a kind of I need to clarify something with you anyway, Ms. Rothermel. John, you had said, just come to one of our board meetings and bullying issue committee. I mean, I know you're probably referring to the public comment period, obviously, which, by the way, I should clarify, is not available on the school's website. So folks wouldn't see it unless the news coverage had happened. But do you not understand that that's also frustration boiling over in some points?
Yes.
The mic, sir.
Yes.
Just to give you clarify. And you said you wanted to answer something here, and I'll give everybody a chance to go over another round on this subject.
Bullying has to be reported to the board. We got to get involved in what's going on in our community. So unless we know about it, we can't do anything about it. So please, if there's bullying, let us know about it.
Is there a mechanism right now in place for that to happen?
I think they call it telephone.
That's it. Just call one of the board members and do that? How, to that, Cheryl, let me ask you that. we'll give it to you here at the end, if you don't mind. Cheryl, let me ask you then, what could, because this goes to a bigger topic, was going to be the next question anyway. More community input straight to the board. There is limited accountability, at least in the public meetings, but obviously there's what could be happening out in the general public. What do you do as a board member to hear more from the public and from teachers so that you can know of issues before they come up without stepping over that line of getting into the daily minutia of operations, but at least just get input? What do you do personally to do so? And I'll be asking each of you, what will you do if elected to do that? John said telephone, so.
Well, as long as that telephone is directed to the right place, but in terms of reporting bullying, the police department, I was trying to see what it was called, but they have a new thing, and they have an icon for people to see and for students to see, and a way to report bullying and anything that needs to be reported anonymously or however. And it's been advertised, and it's at the high school. Now, I haven't been there I haven't tried it out. I haven't reported anything. Nothing has been reported to me, but I am out in the community, and I do know a lot of teachers because I was a teacher, and they share with me, and I listen, and if it's something that, and you said the minutia, I don't get involved in that. I redirect them to their team leader, their assistant principal, their principal, wherever they should take that complaint or that concern. But if it's something that concerns me and makes me wonder what's going on, well then, when I'm with the board and when we have executive sessions, I bring those topics up and try to find out really what's going on.
Jessica, on that issue of getting input from the community in general and teachers in general, what mechanisms, if elected, would you put in place to get that type of feedback?
I think being a parent is one of the advantages here whenever we're looking at what's actually going on in our schools. I have a kid at multiple schools that will bring me feedback that is valuable feedback. So, and this is where the word proactive starts. Not waiting for somebody to call me and say I have a problem, but going out and saying, hey, what's your experience? What's your experience? Anybody knows that has talked to me as a school board candidate knows that I want to know what your thoughts and feelings are, and that's not going to change once I'm elected to the board. So I want that feedback. I want to hear what your kid's story is, because it's important. And if I don't ask you, you may not come and tell me.
John, let me give you a chance to clarify on what you had said there, because you had leaned over and said something to me about how will you, or how have you, and how will you in the future make sure folks can have that input?
Well, procedure is whenever you call a board member, they usually direct you back to the principal, the superintendent. And if that's not satisfied, then it usually comes before the board at a board meeting. But we have email, telephone, social media, things that, but I kind of overstepped just a little bit there. Whenever you got to report something, report it to our police department if we have bullying and right people that needs to receive this information and follow up on it. Sometimes we're the last to know anything about what's going on in our district. Now, as far as getting out and seeing how people feel and stuff like that, everybody's busy. It's hard to catch a lot of people. Right now, we're out in the deal there, politicking, I guess, and we're acting very interested in a lot of stuff. But basically, if you would call me at the house, that you tell me the deal, I would direct you to the right people that you need to talk to, but also I would know about it at that point. So, and I could follow up on my own, just for my own reasons. Thank you.
And some folks in the crowd, you can give it out later for your number. The folks on the front row want to get it from you to get in touch with you, because that may be good for everyone to give out that information.
It's on the web page on the school.
There you go. Jody.
Yes, as a board member related to parent concerns, et cetera, I mean, I think my cell number is actually published tonight, so there you go. So you've got my number. I'm happy to hear from you. I will absolutely follow protocol, so I'm not going to go outside of that. Happy to hear from you. Happy to take it to who it needs to go to, and then follow up. I think that is the key. I hear you. Let's find out what's going on. You follow what you're supposed to do. I'll go do what I'm supposed to do. Let's meet in the middle and see what happens.
James?
Anybody that knows me I love talking on telephone. I'm not so happy about the little 5-inch keyboard social media thing, but I do it. I would gladly take your phone call at any time. But one thing we have to keep in mind is things need to be reported to the proper channel to begin with, and let that flow through. Because if we never do that, and I'm trying to micromanage everything, we never find out where that point of failure is. If you report something and it doesn't make it to where it should be, and the problem is not resolved, we have to find out where that failure is and fix that failure or replace that failure or whatever we need to do. So there is a reason that we need to go through the proper chain of command. I will still take your call, and we will monitor it as it goes through the process. As far as getting information to the board, one of the things that I like, it didn't work so well in the beginning, was our Safety and Security Committee, because we were in such a rush to get so much done so fast. But committees are a good thing. Groups are a good thing. They can work very well. To take an entire community, and I've used this analogy before on the internet, to take the entire community's worth of information and get that on this desk, you need a funnel. It's the same way you put a massive amount of fluid into a small area. You form a committee, all the community members are dumping their information into that, it's all worked together, and it trickles down to the bottom. The important stuff still lands where it needs to land. But there's no way board members can possibly take the input from 5,000 people at a time. I wish I had that ability. I don't. I would gladly listen. I'll gladly listen to anyone that wants to call. But at the same time, I think committees are a really good way to try to do things.
Tina?
Well, I've actually had a child that went through bullying for a few years. It was always the same student, but it was for over a few years. And it never met my satisfaction. Had tracking been there, then perhaps the school would have recognized it was over and over, and it went from middle school to junior high. The principals would talk to me, they would talk to the other parent, but it never got resolved, and perhaps that's somewhere where mediation can help. And also punishment for that bully. Luckily, and my son he was beaten up. And the consequences might have made the difference for that student that was the bully. And as far as I know, and I know that the schools can't tell you everything about the other side because of the confidentiality, that sort of thing. But I wasn't satisfied. And no, board members can't take on all of this. If somebody does call you, you revert them to the place where they need to talk to. You might even follow up though. I don't anticipate getting 5,000 emails. But if somebody did call you, you might make sure that the school whom you referred it to, you follow up and say, have things been taken care of? We need a better process. I can't say I know what that is. I haven't gotten to be on any committees to have all this extra information. I'm at a disadvantage. But also bullying. I had a special brother growing up. The way we handled it back then was we'd beat them up for making fun of our brother. You can't do that anymore. But it still goes back to parenting, y'all. It still goes back to parenting, because had I gotten a call and my son had bullied somebody, he wouldn't be happy. I'm guaranteed. I had that special brother. They knew they had a special uncle.
Wrap it up.
They treated him well.
Thank you. Part of what James had mentioned earlier, and we've heard it kind of mentioned back and forth in the context of bullying, social media use. And it's a balance for any society or community, I should say, to figure out, one, what's appropriate behavior or not, and at the same time, policies are adopted for employment, for example, or the like. First, let me just start with this. What type of social media policy should be implemented? One, to monitor what students do. Second, should there be one in place for school board members that should be adopted as a formal policy? Tina, I don't think I've given you a question first, so I'll let you start off with that.
I don't know how you can monitor social media. There's so much of it out there. Again, as parents, you should know what your kids are doing. And I'm not sure at what age. Of course, in a perfect world, I probably would think they shouldn't have social media till after they're about 15. We know that's not going to happen. As long as you give them the tools, phones, iPads, they're going to be out there. They're going to create accounts. They're going to say they're 18 years old. But as parents, again, you've got to monitor your kids, and you've got to listen to them. Be involved, know their friends, have them over, know what kind of kids they're hanging out with. And you hear something alarming, it needs to be brought to somebody's attention, especially if it starts to get threatening and violent. You need to bring it to somebody's attention. That's all I know how to do.
Gotcha. Let me go back. Sheryl.
Well, I have to say that I don't know the name of whatever the program is. I haven't availed myself of that information yet, but I do know that there's some sort of software or something in place where social media can be monitored to some extent, and we've invested in that, and I'm sorry that I don't have more specific information, but I do know that we have followed up on a program that we know can help monitor. But I also know that there have already been instances of students feeling secure enough to report some things already to the police department or to counselors or other administrators, and that I see as a good sign.
Jody.
So I agree that there is a tool that I've heard about that we've already got in place related to monitoring of social media within the school and within a radius, I believe. So we'll have to get some more information on that because I don't know that information off the top of my head. But I think your question was two-part. As a school board, right? So I would 100% support, again, it goes back to transparency, which is one of the things I'll stand on all day long. It's about transparency, both from district leadership, which we've seen more of, as well as from the board, right? Because we get to see what we get to see in the school board meeting, which isn't a whole lot, and a lot of that happens behind closed doors, so we don't know what questions have been asked, etc. So I would absolutely support some type of rotation. Couldn't require everybody to have their own Facebook page, although I plan to keep mine if elected. But certainly there should be a SFI ISD school board Facebook account that somebody's monitoring.
And just clarify, when you say that as one that allows for communication outward from board members, or how, I mean, because the school district does have a Facebook page, but you're saying a specific one for the board, is that right?
Yes.
And how would that work? Just so that folks understand what you're asking for.
I think it's similar to the Facebook account I have now for this position, right? I mean, it's no different than calling me, etc. It's an opportunity for parents to reach out via a different avenue, ask questions, get answers,
and handle it that way.
But all the board members would have access to communicate on that?
Yeah.
Okay, I just, it's one of those things, with Open Meetings Act may get a little tricky, obviously, but I don't want to knock any idea, but just to kind of point out the issue with there. Let's see here, James, on the social media policy of what should the school district be approaching?
Well, I mean, we obviously can't start invading people's privacy. I mean, students still have rights. We do have, there's software available that is used to track keywords. And I'm pretty sure we've already, I think we already approved, that was already approved at the last board meeting, I think. Totally forgot what I was saying.
The second part of that too was, should the board adopt a policy on how board members interact in social media? Which, by the way, I need to follow up on everybody here on that question, I think.
Should the board adopt a policy on
For its own members.
That's difficult, and I know where this is all coming from, I'm sure. But at the same time, I respect the rights of this country. People have the right to speak their mind and say what they feel they want to say. I don't want to infringe on their rights, and at the same time, that's exactly what this is for. It's an election, and that's how we take care of those issues. I don't ever want to take someone's right away. If you don't like what you hear from somebody, it's taken care of at a ballot box. That's how we do things in this country, and that's how it has to be.
Gotcha. Jessica?
Just like everyone else has said, I believe we already have implemented a social media software program that just, it doesn't monitor specific feeds where you can read what every single student is posting, but it just searches for keywords. So, and as we learned with the details of May 18th, that could have been something that could have alerted us because he was using social media beforehand. So I love that software, I love that technology. We need to make sure that we can interact and intervene if we have that opportunity in the future. It also tells us if we have someone that just needs some mental support overall, suicide would be a key word, and we can send a counselor over there. So it's a good tool without really infringing on too much of the privacy of the students. So in part 2 of the question, I actually love the idea of board members having social media accounts and being transparent and communicating what's going on in the community. So I've heard from different staff members that we have a lack of support from the community sometimes, and that's just one more way to get the community involved. So our generation of parents uses social media, and it's one more way to inform them, to ask them for specific types of support, and to keep them engaged in the district.
Great. John?
I agree with James on this area, but we also have a program that our students are probably our most ones that watches of social media, and they always go on tribal tips to inform us. We don't have to get very personal about watching everything, but our police department do have the programs and the software to follow up on social media. But we do have tribal tips that we need to make sure our students understand that they see something out there or hear something, they can report it and be anonymous about it.
Great, thank you, John. 2 policies have not been implemented yet that you want to see implemented within the next year. I'll let you go first, Jody.
So rating the school, I think they've done, I know my face doesn't hide anything, right? So in rating the school on what we've done since May 18th, I would say great. On a scale of, very poor to excellent. I think we've done great as a district in what we've done in implementing going forward. As far as policies that have not been implemented, I can't think of one, if I'm being honest, right off the top of my head about what we would want to implement that would be extra. What I am thinking about right now is how do we pay for what we've started, right? And continue to pay for that. That's where my head is in this game. We've paid for something that's gonna last a year at this point. And so I know the district leadership is very focused around how do we continue to do what we're doing that's working really well. James?
I'm about the same position with Jody. I mean, since May 18th, the district has pulled off phenomenal tasks. I mean, if you think about what has been done in a short amount of time, yes, there's still more that we want to see done, but I'd give them a great score since May 18th on what has been done so far. Going forwards, I think we need technology. Right now, we currently have hundreds of cameras that we're trying to watch, and we need some artificial intelligence assistance to monitor those screens. No human being can possibly monitor 500 screens. So there are some things that I'd still like to see done.
Thank you, Tina.
Well, first off, May 18th should never have happened. And if policy and procedures had been followed, we wouldn't have been at that point. I just don't believe it. But going forward, I'd like to see some sort of online public list that we can look at about what the security is doing. Who are they watching? Are they checking doors every day? Something that the public can access and see the accountability of security. I don't think that that would cost much. It might be a lot of paperwork for the police. But it would be great for the public to know if you don't have a kid in school, but you have grandkids in, and you don't get those direct reports. It'd be something that I can look at and feel more comfortable about knowing that somebody's checking everything. And I'm sure that they are. I don't doubt that after what happened. That's probably my biggest thing. Safety's always been my biggest thing. My grandson was in one of those art classrooms. People lost their children. Adults died, and safety was always the first thing on my mind, and I would like to see that get better.
If I can get you to just clarify here, when you talk about a report or something from the police or what they're monitoring or anything, can you clarify that a little bit?
Like a checklist. What's been done at the high school all day? What did security do at the high school? Did they just look in windows? Did they check the doors? Did they walk the hallways? I'm sure those things are being done. But I want to be able to go to the Santa Fe homepage and click on something with safety that shows reports, whether it's a weekly thing or a monthly thing. Something that can ease my mind a little better, because I'm sure we're all scared of that, and we don't want it to happen again. And I believe y'all probably are doing that. I just don't know it.
But if the reporting is happening, you'd like to see it more of a public side of things.
Public and accessible, yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Let's see. Sheryl.
Well, we are responsible for being a fiscally responsible district, and it's my belief that we have done everything that the community has asked for and everything that we felt we could do and still maintain that fiscal responsibility. We do, you all know, I'm sure, that we do have some grant money that's getting us through this year, but we still have to answer that question of where are the funds going to come from to continue all of that. And we're working very diligently on trying to get more grants and more funding, and we're really staying in contact with the state to see what they're going to do to help us keep this measure of security up. We certainly are committed to doing that, but also what seems to be misinformation in the community is that the whole time that I've been on the school board for 8 years, safety has always been an issue that has been discussed, and I won't go into it this evening, but there is a long list of, since 2009, of implementations that have been done every single year, beefing up security and safety and training and necessary equipment for the police department and personnel for the police department. So if we are not caught off guard, this tragedy is just unbelievable. It happened. We're living through it. We're trying to work together to get through it. It's going to take some time. The anger issues that are out there are honest. They're valid. It's okay. But we're going to get through it. Whether we get through it with the current board, whether we get through it with new people on the board, time is on our side. We're going to get through it. And everyone is totally committed to and concerned about safety in our schools.
John?
I agree with you 100%. We also have electric door locks, door alarms. Whenever someone opens the door or something, it automatically flashes on the monitors that the police officers are watching on a daily basis. We have real-time people that's watching our monitors. As far as safety, I think we got probably one of the safest schools right now around, and we had a safe school before May the 18th too. It just so happens that that tragedy did happen. It cost a lot of folks a lot of heartbreaks. We lost a lot of family members, and we have really tried to put things together since then to make sure the things that we were weak on that we're strong on now, and we'll go from there, folks. We all need to take a deep breath, take a step backwards, see what's working, see what's not working. We're going to have to one day pay for all of this stuff here and continue to pay for it, and we have to find the money and the grants and stuff to do that.
Jessica?
So your first question was our district response to the false alarm in February through May. So the common thread with most school shootings is most schools were not enforcing their policies and procedures in those cases. We're no different. We had some policies and procedures we were not enforcing. So my own high schooler walked through a prop door every morning to go to basketball. We had questionable dress code allowances. So, but like I said, we're not alone, and I hope that districts around us use us as a learning tool to enforce those rules. As far as the district response, everything that we've put in place has been great. As a parent who has to send their kids to these schools, I appreciate all of that, all of those measures that have been put in place. So now's the hard part of making sure that we're doing what we're saying we're doing with those measures, that we're not propping doors, that, when we've got somebody manning the metal detectors, they're not looking at their phone, that they're taking every part of it seriously. And one thing that I would like to see, and this is the CPA in me, where somebody comes in and audits my work and tells the stakeholders what she's saying is true. I would love to have that assurance from a third party that says, what the district is saying, which we're extremely safe, is true. They're safe. I'd send my kids to school there. So that's probably the one change that I would like to see going forward, is just to have a third party sign off. So we have a third party that tells us how we're doing educationally with the A through F system. We have a third party that we pay $50,000 to that tells us financially we're okay. So, and we need to have a third party to tell us that it's safe to send our kids to school every day.
Jessica brought up what was going to be our next question here on this. I'll start down at the end to you, Sheryl. I want to give you a chance to clarify something you said here. You said on May 18th we weren't caught off guard. Did you really mean that?
Everybody was caught off guard. What I meant by saying that was that it isn't that we didn't have a police force on campus. It isn't that we didn't have proper equipment to deal with a situation like that. It isn't that we didn't have safety measures in place. I mean, it was totally unforeseen, obviously, and just horrendous. But it's not, it wasn't a stranger on campus, because when that happens, our students do report if somebody is on campus and they don't belong there. I mean, the whole situation was just totally unforeseen, so I certainly didn't mean that we were prepared for that and we didn't do anything, because we obviously met the situation head on right away and did everything that could be done.
Okay. I just want to give you a chance to clarify that, because just the wording matters here. But to that end, and the next question was going to be about an outside review, an audit. In industrial accidents, for example, what they call a root cause analysis. It goes back and looks at things that had happened before and what current culture are. Do you support having a root cause or an audit, an outside third party look at everything across the board and possibly make recommendations? And if so, how soon would you like to see that implemented?
I truly believe that the FBI did a very thorough investigation. They have not given us information yet, and they will not give us information until after the trial has taken place. But we already conduct intruder drills. Our police department has.
Yeah, I'm asking though a third-party review of all of that. It's one thing to talk about internal, but a third-party independent come in and say those drills or those are working or not working or whatever policies are in there. That's specific to the question.
All right. Well, I think the FBI is a third party. In my opinion, it wasn't just an internal Santa Fe ISD police investigation. It was totally turned over to FBI. And to me, that's very definitely a third party, best investigation you could get.
And the FBI does look at the criminal side of things, but as far as procedures and policies, they don't normally make a recommendation on that. That's why. So are you saying that's enough?
Well, we already have training for intruder drills where outside people come in, try to get into the building. If they do, then they have a review of what didn't work, what did work, why didn't it work. I mean, we already have some of that going on and have had for the last few years.
Gotcha. James?
Yes, that's true. I think once a year, maybe twice a year, we do get an outside person that is unaffiliated with the district to try to breach security, enter the district. Anyway, we're already doing that. But I think what we're really looking for is, especially now when everybody is kind of uncomfortable and having difficulty trusting each other, I think what everybody's looking for is an outside third party to come in and do an outside security audit. And try to breach the system, exploit the flaws. Obviously, that safety protocol, that third party is never going to be able to make that information public, but they should be able to come up with some type of an A through F rating system, and that should be reported to the people. And I think the people, especially at this point in time, the people need to see that. Now, is that something that we need to do forever? Maybe not. But right now, I think it's a good thing because it'll build trust and it'll back up what they're being told.
How quickly would you like to see that implemented?
Depending, I have no idea what that costs. I'm sure it's something, unless it's astronomical, I'm sure we could fit it in the budget. I don't know. I don't know what that costs. If the cost is feasible, start it immediately. Why not?
Jody?
Yes, I would support an assessment of the school beyond an intruder drill, looking at policies, procedures, those types of things, and some type of certification. So 100% I would support that. As to when, as soon as possible.
Gotcha. John?
I'd be in favor of that. Outside of what we're already doing, there's be another set of eyes to see and professionals to come do that and try to get into our schools. Hopefully we'll get good reports. I have no idea how much that would cost to see that we would have to work it into our budgets. Unless it's just really expensive, I agree with that. We need to have another set of eyes, not the other. Anything to keep our children safe.
Thank you. Jessica?
I already brought it up, so obviously I'm in favor of it. I think there's services out there, but like I said, any kind of financial event that happens, any kind of fraud, what happens is quarterly you are audited until the stakeholders feel like they trust you again with their money. And these are our kids' lives that we're sending we're sending them to school every day to get educated, and I'd like for my kids to come through the door every night educated, but I want them to come through the door. That's the most important thing. So if we need to do it quarterly, we can do it quarterly. I don't believe it will be cost prohibitive. We can find the money from the state, that's another thing. If I need to go to the state as a board member and say, I want funds to cover this and I want you to do it, I'll do that. I'll fight for us at the state level. So we had a school shooting and nobody else did. So we're gonna have some one-offs that we need. And I'm willing to do that. So I would love to have a third-party quarterly report. Like I said, A through F is fine. I'd like to send my kids to an A school in school safety. I think we all would. And we can go from there. And then as we gain trust back, just like in the financial world, you get to go through less audits. And it makes you better.
How soon would you like to see it implemented?
What's today?
I think we got the point.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right.
Fourth quarter.
Yeah, you gotcha. Tina?
I definitely think we need it, and I don't care what the cost is. This just shouldn't have happened, y'all. Just shouldn't have happened. I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional. It bothers me. It really bothers me that this happened. But definitely we need a third party, and I'd like to know that everyone doesn't know that they're coming. I want the assurance that it doesn't go out to the teachers, that it doesn't go out to the police department. I want them completely caught off guard, nobody knowing other than the superintendent that they're coming. And then let's see those reports. And she's right. If it's quarterly, and if we can lessen it, if we feel that we're more secure, but it should be at least once a year. You should hear from a third party as to how bad we are or how good we are. And I think that we are improving. But what harm is it to get a third party to check it?
And how quickly would you like to see that implemented?
Right away.
Gotcha. Thank you, Tina. Appreciate it. All right. A lot of what's been discussed tonight comes down to money. Physical things can be paid for by a bond issue. Other things either because I think the tax rate's at its M&O cap right now, as most school districts are. So money becomes a challenge to make sure this happens. So this is a two-part question. It'll be the last formal question, then we'll let everybody have their pitches. And I'm going to start with you, Tina, and then go back down this way. So in that three-part area here, on finance, of what do you want to see spent on, because there are programs that are going to have to be funded well beyond this year. What efforts will you make as a school board member to see that the funding continues and the increased funding where you need, and if that means cut somewhere, what would the areas would you cut? And the other part, would you support a bond issue for the physical things that you can spend money on that are allowed under that?
I would support a bond issue. I've looked at what we owe in bonds, and it seems like it's around 90 million. I compared that to other school districts. We're well below everybody else. So a bond issue is not a problem for me. I would have to look at the budget. I'd have to go back 10 years, see what we're spending on. It looks like we're doing what we need to do on the normal operations. So yes, those things are going to cost money. Taxpayers aren't going to want their taxes increased. And I think that the amount of bonds we owe compared to everybody else is not so bad.
Jessica?
To be honest, we've spent all the money on our hardening pretty much that we really need to spend. So I don't really see any bonds in the future. From the information that I have right now, I would not support another bond because our school district has done a lot since the shooting. So like I said, the hard part right now is doing the legwork and making sure that we're enforcing all these policies and making sure that we didn't just waste money. One of the things that I want to talk about is fighting to increase our revenue per child. So we pay a lot of money in taxes, and we receive less per student than most of our surrounding districts. So increasing that will help us have money to pay for our police officers if we want to keep them, but it'll also help us hire more teachers. So, and I do want to emphasize, we are paying just as much taxes as everybody else. We're just getting less for our kids. So we're just paying for everybody else that's not in this district to send their kids to school. So part of that is our attendance. So it goes back to making sure that we communicate that out. So that our kids are getting less because we're going to school less than average. So those are going to be the measures that I take, that we push to make sure that we get just as much money for our kids as the surrounding districts, because we certainly pay as much as in taxes.
Thank you. John?
We were very fortunate to have the money in general funds to pay for all the new programs that we put into effect. But we also got to remember that this is a continuous cost to the district. We have to look for either grants, we may have to look at increasing taxes, we may have to ask for a bond issue. Those things are very possible. But right now, our general fund can handle the cost of it. For how long, we don't know yet. The other thing is, like Jessica said, we got to get with the state legislation to raise our dollars per student. We only get about $4,700 a year, where other people are getting well between $5,000 and $7,000 per student. We pay top dollar on our taxes. The more we pay, the more the state takes away from us from their general funds. And so with all the burdens put on us taxpayers. But as far as passing a bond and a deal, we just need to take a look at it. In the near future, we got to be good stewards of our money and use it wisely.
Jody?
I think it's a combination of what Jessica said and Mr. Rothermel said as well. It goes back to knowing how the school is funded. I attended a great seminar led by Lee this week related to school finance, it was early last week, sorry. Related to school finance, and we talked a lot about how a school is funded and the buckets for which you can spend those funds that you get. So it was really enlightening. But what we know from an attendance standpoint at SFISD is that if you take the state average of about 95.9% for the past 5 years, where we fall as a district, and I'll say, first of all, we've made great strides related to this in the last year, but 2013, 92%, 92%, 92%, 93%, then we jumped to 95%. So as a district, we made some great strides. I think that we continue that momentum for that, and then we fight alongside Jessica over here, who's going to get us, the additional funds per student as well.
James?
I'm with most everybody else. I wouldn't support a bond issue, especially right now when it's very likely that so many federal, state, and local grants would be available to us. Attendance and enrollment are very important to our funding. We need to do everything we can to keep people from leaving our district, because that seems to be, at least the rumor. I haven't seen official numbers, but it sounds as if there are a lot of people leaving our district, and that's going to cost us a lot of money. And obviously, fiscal responsibility. I mean, we're going to have to take care of our money. From what I've learned from the meeting with Lee the other night that Jody was just talking about, the school, from what I saw in the few hours that we met, they've done a really phenomenal job of managing what we have. Santa Fe is not just overflowing with money, so they've done a great job, and we have to continue that.
All right, and Cheryl, before you get on Gina, I'm going to ask you to make your way up here for your part. Cheryl.
Well, attendance is a key issue, and the school can't do that all by themselves. It takes the community and the parents making sure that their kiddos get to school so that we don't lose out on that average daily attendance money. So that is important. We also are already talking to the state about grants. We're already on that. It's not like, oh, well, we're going to need to see if we can find some grants to keep everything going. We're already doing that. We just are waiting on word from various places on whether this grant is going to come through or that grant is going to come through, or what kind of federal funding, what kind of state funding that we can get to keep everything going that we've started. One thing that we have done that I think is very fiscally responsible is that we have set a cap on our spending out of the general fund so that we're not going to be overzealous in spending down our general fund money and find ourselves in a real bind a few months from now or a year from now. So I think that's very important for you to know, that we're not going to just spend out all the money. We have to look to the future, and we have to be responsible. So we do have that going, and I just wish that our state would find an equitable funding solution for schools, because the funding solution has not been found, and we're on the short end of that.
Thank you all. Please give a hand to everyone here tonight for participating. As I pointed out to you at the beginning here, there was no way we're going to get to every question that was submitted out here. All the candidates have agreed that the written questions that are here, as some of them obviously they've already answered here, but they're going to submit them back to the chamber. The chamber will make those available for you to see. There's issues such as communication, substitute teacher training, teacher retention, other issues that are on here we weren't able to get here tonight. Of the 12 questions that we were able to get to here tonight. Now we come to the part of the forum in which we allow each of the candidates 2 to 3 minutes to make their pitch for why you should vote for them. But that is going to be a hard countdown. So when you have a minute left, I will say, wrap it up. Okay. Now, as I said, the elevator elevator speeches, so their pitches are why you should vote for them. And as you heard Gina say, candidates, feel free to point out if you've got a meet and greet or anything coming up. We're going to go ahead and start with the position 5 candidates, and I'll just go ahead as they are in order on this list first. James, I'll have you go first. 2 to 3 minutes, sir.
Well, it's not going to take that long because I'm probably ready to get out of here like y'all. I appreciate, first of all, the Chamber of Commerce, Day Spring Church, TJ, I-45 now, for putting this on tonight, and everybody that came to learn everything they could about their candidates. This is probably the first year, and who knows how long, that people are actually going to go to the polls to vote for a school board member that they are educated on and have researched, and that's a great thing. It's horrible that what it took for us to get to this point, but it's a great thing that people are this involved. Hopefully we can keep this involvement up. I'm always available. I'm sure many of you probably have more questions that you'd like to ask. Feel free to contact me anytime. I will not always tell you what you want to hear, but I will always tell you the truth. And I look forward to next month. I'm sure it's going to be exciting, being my first campaign ever, but we're going to get through it, and this community is going to get through it. I ask that everybody consider voting for me, giving me your support for position 5. Hope everybody has a safe trip home tonight, and take some time tonight to say a prayer and think about those in this community that are hurting. There's a lot of people that need support, and we've got to come together and give people that support that they need. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Jody.
So just want to say thanks to TJ, first of all, and thanks to the Chamber for hosting the event for us tonight. Thank you to the community for attending. This is way more people than we had 2 years ago, right? So this is good. I think differently about tonight when it comes to who you should vote for, in that I want you to vote for the candidate that you feel like is right for this. Be informed, be wise, be alert, and know who you're voting for. That's my ask of you. And if that happens to be me, then I'd be honored to be a board member that would represent position 5. I believe with everything in me that I am the right candidate for position 5. However, I'm running against some pretty great folks up here. As parents, we expect excellence in education from our kids. They should expect the same from us when it comes to education. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Jody. Sheryl.
I'm going to probably use 30 seconds. I'm not going to say every single one, but thank you to everyone who had any part in this and anything to do with it. Appreciate that the Chamber is willing to put this on, and I really appreciate those of you who have come out to listen, because it shows that you are truly interested and want to know and want to be involved with what's best for your school district and your children. I would simply say that my personal thought at this time is that going forward, after what we've been through, it may not be the time for drastic change in terms of the board. I think what we need is experience and education, and I think that I can offer that. I am well-versed in school law, school finance, having been a teacher and an administrator for 37 years. I'm well-versed in curriculum and discipline, and I would appreciate your consideration, but I just want you to vote from your heart, but do vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheryl. Tina.
Like everyone else, I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. I had a fancy speech written, but I'm going to go with my heart right now. I believe all the questions that we have had, that a lot of things were answered and said. I don't have the experience that my incumbent has, but I am a hard worker, and I'll do everything I can to learn everything. That's a promise. And then secondly, I think we do need a change. And I think it starts at the top. Whether I'm elected or not, I would love to see whatever board members do get elected and are still on board, that you make that change at the top.
Thank you. Now the candidates for position 4, Jessica.
Like everyone else, I want to thank everybody for coming out. I want to thank everybody that's going to watch this. I know it's hard to get through some of it. It's not the most exciting topics that we're talking about. They're so important. So I'm just like every other parent. I want the best education for our kids, and I want them to be safe. So I am a big, big supporter of public education. A lot of people know my story. I was an economically disadvantaged student, and I give my district that I graduated from most of the credit for making sure that I was able to break that cycle of poverty and come out and be a productive citizen. So I was challenged every day. I was never treated differently because I was economically disadvantaged. And when I went to college, it was easy. I was ready. And I want to give that opportunity to the kids that are in our district that want to take that opportunity. And if they want to go a different direction, we prepare them for that also. If they want to go into the military, we set them up. We get an ROTC program. If they want to trade, we set them up. You know, I talked to College of the Mainland. So they have a lot of trade options. And we as parents don't know about it. We can send our kids there while they're in high school, and they can get a certification. And the goal is to have every student have a plan when they graduate. And I'm willing to ask the tough questions. I'm willing to question what decisions need to be made, what's brought to the board. Because that's what our job is as a board member. And like I said, we have to do better. We have to do better. We have to change. So, thank you.
John?
I want to thank everyone for putting this on tonight, the chamber, TJ for doing it. I want to thank you all for being here. Over the last 14 years, I've dedicated my life to our school district. Around our house, we do our monthly schedule according to board meetings, special call meetings, workshop, everything else. If y'all don't realize that I don't love our community and our students, then you can November the 6th take me away. But there's a lot of things that we got to do in our district, and I'd like to be a part of it. I especially love our children, all 4,700 of them. And that wouldn't be for them. It would have been very easy for me to throw my hat, throw the towel in the ring, and just to walk away from all of this. But I'm not going to leave our students hanging. I'm going to do what I can do to move forward with our school district, get our trust back, and move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, John. As I said,